ní Nigeria a ní tier mẹ́ta fún government, a ní federal, a ní state, a ní local government. So àwọn mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yìí la ní Nigeria. So presently bí Nigeria was structured, federal government ó ní àwọn revenue tó máa ń gbà, àwọn owó tí ìjọba àpapọ̀ tí wọ́n máa ń gbà. State government àwọn náà ní tiwọn, local government àwọn náà ní tiwọn tí wọ́n máa ń gbà. So nǹkan kan wà tó yẹ kó pa àwọn mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta ẹ̀ pọ̀, nǹkan wà tó yẹ kó pa àwọn mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta papọ̀, a máa ń pè ní FAAC. So yẹn ní pé gbogbo owó tí everybody bá pa Nàìjíríà, so lára àwọn kan tó máa ń lọ síbi òun ni VAT. Àmọ́ àwọn kan tó máa sọ pé VAT, value added tax. So value added tax yẹn ni wípé for every goods and services that are produced, that are vatable, they are subject to VAT. Presently at the rate of 7.5%. So wọ́n tó túmọ̀ sí ní pé tí a bá ra ọjà, in fact, a bá lọ supermarket, tó máa ta ọjà ẹ̀ṣọ́ máa ń ra àwọn oníjẹ́ kó máa fi síbẹ̀ ní VAT at 7.5%. So wọ́n tó bí ní wípé ordinarily kí ni yóò sínú constitution Nigeria, VAT yìí kò sínú constitution Nigeria. Tẹ́lá rántí bí 2020-2021 former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike ó gbé federal government lọ sí court, ó dẹ̀ win ní appeal court pé states ni ó yẹ kí ó máa gba VAT, state government. So which means wípé each state tí wọ́n bá ti consume VAT, let's say Lagos State ń sìn ó consume VAT ní Lagos State, owó yẹn should be paid to Lagos State government. Now they have their head office in Lagos. So if you consume, let's say mo wà ní Nasarawa, tí mo bá consume airtime, tí mo bá ra airtime, at that point mo ra airtime yẹn mi ò sí lẹ́kọ̀ọ́, so you can't capture me as the VAT tí mo bá san capture ẹ̀sẹ̀kọ̀, ó yẹ kó wà ní Nasarawa. So Nasarawa state government ló yẹ kí MTN san owó yẹn fún. So now in order not to have that confusion, because nǹkan tó mi ní wípé every state ló máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní máa charge VAT. So nǹkan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ ni pé tí bá sọ pé mo fẹ́ ṣe transaction lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ mo fẹ́ ṣe ní Nasarawa, problem máa wà fún mi, because n bá yẹ sáré lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ màmá sáré Nasarawa láti fi jọ wípé mo file VAT bẹ́ẹ̀, mo tún wá file VAT náà lẹ́kọ̀ọ́. Tó bá yẹ pé mi jẹ́, if you have a company that is operating across, in fact more than one state, it becomes a problem for you. So the federal government in their wisdom now said, you know what, this money instead, let us collect it on behalf of all the 3 tiers of government, so that at the end of each month, after FIRS, now NRS, Federal Inland Revenue Service, then they will take their own 4% cost of collection, cost then we will now share the money amongst ourselves. So the back of my local government autonomy, Now I'm not Sunday, because when they pay the local government share of this VAT, they pay to the state government. And then people share other revenue from surround the world is in oil, because we all own oil. Oil revenue, it belongs to everybody. It doesn't belong to a particular state. Even though states that they are drilling those oil, they give them what they call 30% derivative. So just to compensate them, they have derivative after the oil revenue. Before they share it, they will take out that 13% first and share to states like Rivers, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, even Lagos, Ondo, Imo. So they share to them like that. At the end of the day, then they will now share that money. So what this means is that the FIRS collects this revenue on behalf of every arms of the government, and then they share it at the end of each month. Every month they will share it, everybody will take their own. That's actually the one that combines all of them together. So now we have 2 types of business commonly amongst SMEs. We have what we call sole proprietorship, or partnership, either of it. Then we have what we call limited liability. Company or PLCs. So now, if, for instance, Monta Oja in my name, Monta Oja, Adefolarin, I'm selling goods. In that case, I am a sole proprietor. But for us, in the accounting profession or law profession, what we run is partnership. What we run currently is partnership, but I'm not running yet. So that's why you see something like Adefolarin Awotukashi and Co. So thing and Co. So if you two come together, you can now form your name to acronym and the AAC consultants, AAC professionals. So something like that. But by statute, register as limited liability company because you are a professional. You are in a profession that is bound by partnership. So because license, taking practice, it is issued in your name, not in the name of your firm. You are only holding it on behalf of your firm. Tell it to you want to sign the share and so now, for this kind of business, when you do this business, what you are paying as tax is called PIT, personal income tax. So to my share, around the register business name, where money firm becomes in flow professionals, it is PIT. If you are collecting salary or you are the one doing business in your own name that is not even registered, what you are liable to pay to government is called personal income tax in your own personal name. That is what you are paying to the government. Now, if me, as an individual, I'm working with a company and they are paying me salary, once someone should for me every month, then I have another business that I've called flow professionals. If government want to assess me at the end of the year, the self-assessment rule that even anybody tó sọ pé kí wọ́n file go assess nǹkan tó ṣe, ó wà demanded fún ẹ pé kó kọ́kọ́ file fúnra rẹ̀ pé nǹkan tí mo ṣe lọ́dún yìí tó lórí tó kọjá ogun rèé gbogbo owó tí mo parí gbogbo nǹkan tí mo ṣe yìí. So in that case, I have made money here as salary in my own personal name. Then I have not even done business, a sole proprietorship business. I have made money. Now, if I want to file, it requires that after owó tí salary tí mo ní yẹn tí mo ti gbà, the business that I've done, don't forget that as I do a business, should have paid the matter computer. If I buy 10 laptops at the rate of, let's say, 5,000, that's about 50,000 I think. So now, let's say I bought it at the rate of 8,000. That's a 10 laptop. Orani, 4,000. So this is how much? 40,000. This is how much? 10,000. So this is 40,000. Nǹkan tó mi ní pé ó cost mi ní 40,000 láti achieve revenue of 50,000. But mind you, this is not my profit. Oye tí mo jèrè ìgbọ́lólè, oye tí mo jèrè lórí ẹ̀gbọ́n ni. Tax kẹ̀rẹ̀, it is only paid on profit, not on your revenue. So lára number one misconception tí àwọn èèyàn ní nìyẹn pé owó tó bá ti wọlé sí àkáǹtì ọmọ débìtì ẹ̀ irọ́ ni kò sí nǹkan tó jẹ bẹ́ẹ̀, kò sí nǹkan tó jẹ bẹ́ẹ̀. There is nothing like that. Nobody, no tax person would even do that in his reasonable state. Àbí tó bá gbà ní ẹ̀ ti yá wèrè nǹkan ló kù. In his reasonable state of mind would do that. So it means that 10,000 is actually my profit on that business. Now, holding cost, the warehouse, on charge for 1,000. Now, nígbà táwọn tó bá mi ṣiṣẹ́, tó bá mi àwọn boys tó bá mi tajà káàkiri gbogbo ẹ̀, mo fáwọn yẹn ní salary èlò, let's say 500. So at the end of the day, gbogbo owó tí mo ṣáà ná, ètò kù wá jẹ́ 1,500. This is actually what is subject to tax, not any of all of this. This is where your tax comes from. If the tax as an individual, even as a company, don't say it become a 1 year. So now let's now say I have now made this is my net profit. This is my gross profit. Our accounting here, at least you're getting email. Come and refresh only what about basic accounting. Now, that was something where nígbà tí mo ti ṣiṣẹ́ ní company tí mo ti ṣiṣẹ́, the income tí mo make for the year is, let's say, 10,000. So what they are subject to tax is what? 18.5. That's how it works when it comes to personal income tax. So, nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ láti sọ fún wa. Okay.
I want you to go back because you are not talking about the issue of trust.
Okay.
See, when you have something like this, and say you pay a salary of 500. Okay, if someone pays a salary of look at it, imagine, and he said I pay a salary of 3,000 naira.
Okay.
Normally, you look at it, is it possible for you to pay 3,000 naira in just distributing the laptops with this amount? We are just looking at it. So, when someone said, this is what I spent, who will now validate and say the truth?
Okay.
Or is lying?
Good. So I mentioned something. So in tax, there's actually a process. First process is that there's something called self-assessment, which means that you self-assess yourself. So in this place now, I am self-assessing myself. That this is what I have done. I have declared to the government for the year. Now, it is now government's responsibility to now say, no, I disagree. Every other business person doing laptop business, what they are paying as salary is 500. Why is your own 3,000? You need to now buttress your own point with evidences. This is where evidence is very, very important. Because even in law court, it's not the best case that wins, but the case with the best evidence wins. That is why you see somebody embezzle 300 billion and still go scot-free. Simply because he has a good lawyer that understands the law of evidence and is able to back everything. In whatever they convince the judge in, it is not as if, no. So now, if you are saying you have paid 3,000, you must be able to show it in your bank. That yes, these are the people I paid the 3,000. If you cannot pay it, one might have the profits in my balance, okay. That's a tax. So they will add it back to your profits, that's tax. That is how it works in practice, either as a government or as individuals. Now, before now, I spoke about having all of this. But for all of this to operate, we have a lot of taxes. A lot. We have what we call company income tax, personal income tax, value-added tax, capital gains tax, education tax, withholding tax. So you can see that it's a long list of taxes. Petroleum profit tax, that's still one of it. We still have what we call stamp duty. Taba transfer, and you go and get 15 naira. But now CBN has said, you know what? Let it be from the person paying. If you are sending money, instead of Entoma receive over Entoma by 15 naira, Entoma charge them 15 naira, you will not be the one that will be charged, not that person. So now all of these are long list of taxes. In fact, these are even the ones I can remember. Now they are even more. No, not even states now. Let's even talk about the one that is globally recognized and let's say nationally recognized. So now, all of these taxes, you know, for every law, there is an act that backs them up. Okay, so for all of this, they have a long list of taxes, which makes no sense. Because if you check other countries, you don't see that they have a long list of taxes like that. So what the government have now done through the reform committees to say that all of these taxes, let us harmonize them into one. So that you don't have all of these taxes scattered all over the place. So what the government has now done is to now say all of these taxes will now be harmonized and be called Nigerian Tax Act. NTA, the Nigerian Tax Act. It comprises of all of these things. It captures them all together. So if you want to read about tax law, you don't have to be reading company income tax. You go and carry another one, capital income tax. You go and carry another one. No, everything is now all together. But it's now split into 4. So we have the Nigerian Tax Act. We talk about all of these taxes. Then we have what we call Nigerian Tax Administration Act, which is, okay, we can even see them on the screen. So which talks about how these taxes will be managed. Báwo la ṣe máa ṣe wọ́n, ọ̀tọ̀ ni wípé nǹkan tá fẹ́ ṣe yìí, ọ̀tọ̀ ni báwo la ṣe máa ṣe. So the Nigerian Tax Administration Act is saying this is how all these taxes will be managed, administered across all the tiers of government. Now we have something that is called the Nigerian Revenue Service Act. This is talking about repealing the act that gave birth to FIRS. We all know FIRS, Federal Revenue Service. So now there's nothing like FIRS anymore. It was buried on 31st of December. By 1st of December, another one was given birth. 1st of January 2026, Nigerian Revenue Service was given birth to. So it would end, because if you look at it, Federal Revenue Service is only about tax. And if you check, even across Africa, a lot of other countries, they have merged and harmonized all their revenue administration into one. So that you don't have to be dealing with different people when it comes to government revenue. So now, what the Nigerian Revenue Service is to do is to manage all government revenue, not only taxes anymore. It is now beyond taxes. NCC, Nigerian Communication Commission, you have to go through NRS. Because, so that all of these other agencies can focus on their core responsibility. If, for instance, you are expected to do road, face that road, leave revenue for revenue service, face your own major duty. Then we have the last one, which is the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act. So which means that you used to have something that is called Joint Tax Board. That Joint Tax Board is actually the collection of all state governments chairman for their board of revenue services. So state internal revenue service, like Lagos, we have what we call Lagos Internal Revenue Service. In Ogun State, we have what we call Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. They all have like that, even the FCT. So now, all of these people are held together and they are merged in that joint revenue service. So which means that if I have an issue, let's say I pay tax in Lagos, and I want to do something in Nasarawa, or let's say in Kogi, they will not be asking me to pay another tax. Tabaranti that I only take was school, that was state government schools, me. They are beginning of tax and state near one. Lagos State form of secondary school, if you want to put your child in secondary one and tax clearance. So now, if you are resident in Oyo and you want your child to school in Lagos State, you got to be in tax clearance in Lagos State. O definitely Oyo, but when you admit it Oyo in Lagos State, so got to must be one no that is for for tax. So now with this new setting, that has been cancelled. If I pay in Lagos and I have tax clearance of Lagos, I can take it to anywhere all over Nigeria, even including the FCT. Because at this point now, you have now merged your administration. I don't have to be paying all over the place. Now, let me talk about some key updates for companies, individuals, and family business. So to say, one of the major plus of this new act is that if you have a company and you are not doing up to 100 million revenue, don't forget, not profit. This is revenue. Using this case study, this is your what? Revenue. This is actually profit. So now, if Gogo Tambi can pay 50 million, what the government is now saying is that you will pay tax, but at 0%. Yes, for any company that you have. And if you are not going up to 100 million, or you have a fixed asset base that is up to 250 million, you are not liable to tax at 30%. What you are liable to tax at is 0%. Now, some of us will be confused with 0%. Is that not free?
You said fixed asset. What does that mean?
Okay, so let's use a construction company for instance. For a construction company, if you have different equipment that you use in executing your construction, and all of them together, their total value is not up to 250 million, you are fine. But if it is above 250 million and your revenue is less than 100 million, you pay tax because you have crossed that threshold. I hope you understand now. So, are we getting where I'm headed? Small. Okay, we'll get to where it concerns individuals personally now. But we need to start from this place so that we can drive it down. Now, when I say tax at 0%, people will be like, you are exempted money here now, why should I pay tax? So what that means, because a lot of people have a lot of misconception when it comes to this part, that you are taxed at 0%. What it means is that even if you are not going to pay tax, you still need to file. You need to file your returns. That yes, this is my financial statement, though, mi ò pa owó tó láti san tax. Then, there's something we call tax computation. You still prepare that tax computation, but when you now come to a place that, when you're not supposed to say tax at, yeah. So normally, the way we compute tax, we'll say net profit as per account. So which means in this person's case now, how much is it? 8.5. Now, there's something that we call add backs. These add backs, they are, one of them is depreciation. So for some of us that did a bit of accounting, depreciation is actually the wear and tear of an asset. So aramoto sin, aramoto yen, oye ko we pe moto oye ko last me for 5 years. Nǹkan tó mean ni wípé every year a máa reduce the value. In fact, tó bá yẹ pé moto kúrò lọ́dọ̀ dealer, value ẹ̀ ti kọ́kọ́ depreciate number one. Because even dealer máa ra lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ kò lè ra lóye kan náà. Tó ta fún ẹ láyé. In fact, phone the same thing. Tó bá ra phone kẹ̀yà sí tó kúrò. Tó bá padà gbà sorry, mo ní emergency mo ní láti sáré ta phone my brother. Sọ pé ó ti lọ. Wọ́n lè fún gbogbo yẹn padà wọn láyé. You never get anything. So now that depreciation is not recognized in tax because it does not involve cash. So in lieu, government granted what is called capital allowance instead. Yes, sir. So now, in order not to bore you, let's say depreciation, but any year could be because you don't have anything like that here, zero, or we say dash. Now, if this person has paid fine is not allowed as an expense. One might have the father. So I guess if this person has paid fine, it will be added back to his profit. But in order not to waste time, so at the end of the day, this become our accessible profits. Accessible profit. So now this is my accessible profit. Let's say less capital allowance. Tobacco money capital allowance, but in this case, only dash me. So this becomes my taxable income as well. Normally, I think this person is over 100 million. The tax will be, because now in the tax law, there's nothing like small, medium, and big anymore. No, it's either you are small or you are big. Before, we have this threshold that for small companies, it is 25 million below. To match the revenue of 25 million naira below, you are a small company. If you now do between 25 million to 100 million, you are what we call medium company. Then 100 million above, you are a big company. So in this case now, there's nothing like big, small, and medium anymore. It's either it's big or it is small. So now, in this instance, ordinarily to like a big company, we would have just said CIT at 30%. I apply it. Then we'll come back and say EBT on this place at 3%. I apply it. We'll still come police trust fund. Because this person is operating within the space of technology, they will charge you what to cost needs that. So actually the tax setting will be many for that company. Now, if it's a company that is less, instead of saying tax at 30%, it becomes tax at what? 0%. So at the end of the day, what you are paying is what? Dash. It becomes dash. You don't have any tax liability. In a nutshell, what the law requires is that even if you do not meet up with the threshold, fine. Because if, as a patient, you are having a headache, and you don't go to the hospital, there's no way your doctor will know at the hospital calling for LA, you still need to go to say, only for me. I don't know how my body is doing me. That's when you can be diagnosed and say, oh, this is what is wrong with you. It is at the point where you file that the government can say, oh, yes, you have complied with the provisions of the tax law. That yes, even though you do not do more than 100 million, you are free to go. But still let us know. Because there's no way we can know if you don't tell us. So that is actually the self-assessment rule. I mentioned something that self-assessment. Then they can also go further to say, oh, we do not agree with this thing. Any parent want to log book account. We want to call desk review. So the officer reviewing the account can say, no, give me evidence to support this, give me evidence to support, give me evidence to support this. Even if it's not satisfied, he can refer the case to what we call tax audit. That tax audit will come and say, no, give us all your bank statements, give us all your documents, give us everything, give us all your ledgers, give us your trial balance, give us this, give us that. We want to be sure what you are claiming is true. That's when tax audit comes. Even if tax audit is not so comfortable that they refer you to the last stage, which is called investigation. Even though that one rarely happens, except in some cases that you have unresolved issues at tax audit level. So now, to move forward, when we say there's something that also been defined in this new law that talks about residency rule. So now, if I am shuttling between, you have a question? If I am shuttling between Nigeria and UK, the law requires that if I stay more than 183 days in Nigeria, then any profit or any income I make in Nigeria is subject to tax under Nigerian tax law. That's what it means. It means I have spent more than 6 months. Because 30 times 6 is what? 180. So I spent more than 180 days in Nigeria. Then, even all over the world, there's something we call residency law. Means where you are resident is where you pay your tax. Even in international law, there's what we call that residency law. So in this case now, if I spend more than 183 days in a place, it means I must pay tax in that place. The same thing applies to individuals. If you as an individual, you are working in Lagos, or you are staying in Ogun State, your tax should be remitted to Ogun State, not Lagos State. Because where you stay is where? Okay. Based on that residency rule, you are not paying tax to Lagos State because you are not resident in Lagos State. That's one of the things this joint revenue service joint revenue board is to harmonize, because we have that case a lot. So Lagos State is actually reaping the reward of a lot of other states. In fairness to other states, Lagos State is the one reaping their reward because of the problem encumbrances to one in the Nigerian tax system. If I have a company in Lagos and I'm dealing with customers across all the 36 states, I'll be money construction projects all over that place, and I have staff deployed to those places. Ordinarily, some tax must be done until over 183 days. I should be paying their taxes in those places. But in Nigeria, it's quite difficult to do that. You know why? It means that you must open a file for your company in all of those states. Where is the money to be flying around? That's imagine. Apart from the money, the risk, the security risk is even too high. Because a lot of these systems, they are not online. Nasarawa State, or one of you call tax clearance, Bauchi State, or one of you call, a lot of them like that. So if I can do this thing online, it is easier for me, which is one of the things the tax law is actually talking about, that leveraging on technology to drive the tax process. Because if I have to open a file across all 36 states and FCT, that's a lot of money for me to bear. It means that if I'm selling goods, but my factor is only on journey now. Who will bear it? You and I. Because any matter how they have to, and no matter what you file card if they know you might charge yes. So that is why we hear people talking about, oh, it is emphasized that the prices of goods and services will come down. Because even the cost of business would have to come down. So you don't have to be going up and down. And then another plus, when it comes to this 100 million of the thing is, VAT is not your problem. if you're under 100 million, you are not expected to charge or remit VAT. So you don't have a problem. Because there's this self-charge rule where if you are doing business and you invoice somebody, you did not put your value added, you did not put the VAT, you are expected to be self-charged. You want to make away your way, not into tax. You want to share mistake and say you want to be here. But in this case now, if you don't charge that person and you don't 100 million, you are fine. But it was not even like that in the old law, because in the old law, it is only 25 million. After 25 million, you have a problem. But in this case now, the threshold has been increased to 100 million, which is actually one of the plus for this new law. Now, let's even talk about how it affects a lot of us as individuals. So, one of the things that we need to consider is if your annual income in a year is less than 800,000 naira, you don't have any tax to pay. If it is less than 800,000, you have no tax whatsoever to pay. So now, when it comes to either income or revenue, so because income is actually broad than revenue. So income includes revenue. It includes interest that you have earned. They are all income. It includes dividend that you have been paid. That is also part of what? Income. So revenue is monotonous, it is one. But income is broad. I hope you understand what I'm saying, sir. So now, okay.
Then someone collects as 800.
Okay. Make 800,000 be good.
You make, you are now including
everything made.
Okay, even if it is gift, see the
gift is not taxable.
No, but how would they I just want to ask that.
Okay. Okay.
Because, you know,
how would they know that this is how much they made? Okay.
It's a pity that we don't have. I think they are still going to come back. I just look at it because when you have religious organization,
that's what I'm saying. If you have your question, don't raise up your hand. I'm here for you.
Most ministers.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Somebody sat down and said, okay, our ministers will send your account. Give that person 2 million, 5 million.
Okay.
It's part of his income.
Definitely.
Will that be taxable?
No.
Within and common. You are saying no on trust. Now,
okay.
If you will see cases even abroad that they use church under. So how will they know? You know, I've been talking about this issue of trust. That is my uncle. Because somebody cannot pay for what he doesn't earn. And about this issue, we need to know how. Because somebody sending it to that person. Okay, if it's share of trust now, if initially in their mind is for them to loan money, to do laundry, how will you know? And it's collected, I say, give to you. It's collected, give to you. How will they know?
Okay, thank you, sir. So in accounting, there's something we call materiality. So materiality is talking about how material is that thing. So now let's say this is actually not to put down our ministers or to bring them down. An average minister, our new church of the Lord, make the 1 million in the month as salary. Do we have any?
It's not
so
salary.
we'll come back to that. We'll still come back to that. So now, I'm privy to hear how much they earn as salary. So even a lot of them are even below the threshold of 800,000. Yeah. Looking at their income, like their employment income, because it's also an employment for them. Though, mind you, because you are a minister of God, doesn't exempt you from paying tax. It is only your church that is exempted based on still being within their ecumenical business. So if they are still doing what they are set up to do, they are not paying tax. If they go outside, let's say you are not going to establish a pure water factory and you are not making money, you will pay tax on that money. Don't think because you are a judge. Tax is not about emotion. It is about law. Tábà lọ dá school sílẹ̀, àwọn pa owó yẹn and the tó dey ṣe pé bí a church ló padà sí don fi fund nǹkan, you pay tax on such money. It is not about emotion. Now let's come back to this question. If peradventure, don't forget that if I love you so much as a minister, I transfer 2 million. I cannot be doing that every month. So that's actually where the reality comes in. That's the control. That how would you be saying you are earning 60,000 as salary, and somebody is gifting you 2 million every month? Make it make sense. It makes no sense. That is where it is too material, because in fact it's almost like 2,000% of how much you are earning. If you are earning 60,000, somebody is giving you gift 2 million every month. It is over penny gift. Wow, now it's Santa Claus. Santa Claus is going to gift here. Go buy 5,000. Don't have food. Don't have package. Go away. Thank you, mommy. Gift every month. So if it becomes a pattern, then the tax person will tell you, no, I disagree with this. You must pay tax on it. This is your income that you are disguising as gifts. That is where it gets dicey. And it requires that at the beginning of each year, now let's say from 1st of January to 30th of June, 30th of January, every company, employer, now this is for some of us earning salaries. Our employer is expected to file what is called annual returns. These annual returns include the emoluments that have been paid to their staff, all the taxes that have been deducted, withholding tax that have been deducted from vendors. Everything will be filed to the FI. In fact, if some of us are here, see every month, the company will automate tax. I'm going to email out of the IRS where they have remitted so on your behalf. Now, do you know why you are getting that email? The reason is that you yourself, you are also expected to file what is called annual returns in your own personal capacity, differently from what your employer has filed, because your employer only understands that. In fact, your employer is only aware of the employment you have with them. They don't know other sources of income you have. Do they? No. They only know what they pay you as salary. If there are any other earnings from any other source, your employer does not know. Your employer is only aware of what he is paying you. You don't software. Showing that the organizations, you only share business, don't earn income. Organization organization daddy. This is a laptop. Share organization so organization got over file. Okay, this is what I have paid my staff. Now, before June, before 31st of March, every individual is expected to also go and file their own tax returns, where you now disclose all other earnings apart from your employment income. If you tell me to present part of so because people don't want to declare the actual amount people want to earn. Even now, don't declare people go pay. Yeah, right. My salary is enough. Meanwhile, you don't pass outside your salary, over 2 times 10 the salary here. And you are leveraging only that. Oh, salary is going to go. Now, let's take another look. Example to Pastor Bayo make Jensen. They offer 22 million gift every month. Now, some people will declare 60,000 lomba. Nígbà tí wọ́n wá wọlé tó ń gbé ìwọ ló nílé yẹn. 1, 2, that same year tó ń gba 2 million as gift, tó lè gba 60,000 salary, ó ra mọ́tò 2018 ní let's say 27 million. Ẹ̀dá máa fòye pé o. So make sense. So which means pé o ní nǹkan tó finance yẹ tí o dẹ̀ ṣe kí ni tí o sọ. When they get gift, so gift yẹn wá every month, wonderful. Owó àbáṣà àbí bí àbáṣà tó bá ní pé Nàìjíríà ti broke, á pè látọ̀run ní bóyá ẹ̀tún dánú ẹ̀ padà fún ọ. So now, we need to be mindful of these things. Ṣé ní àbí pé o fẹ́ rajà lọ́wọ́ èèyàn, ẹni ọba ní kò pé ní gift, jọ tí o bá dídí báyìí fún ẹ, kó bá lè fẹ́ lọ win and cut. Àbọ̀ pé ní hospital bill, so oṣooṣù ló sick. Don't know me, no man, so many things online. I'm already see, a lot of people writing these days, they have never even been to a tax office. One, the tax office, Wọ́n ti understand the gbogbo àwọn tax law yìí. Bóyá ṣiṣẹ́ nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ nǹkan tí ò ṣẹlẹ̀. They don't even know. So a lot of them, they just want traction on their page. One can post nonsense. And don't forget, bad news. It attracts more than good news. Ṣé ìgbà mi kà sọ wípé church wá sí pé wọ́n nìkan rape NTA pé ẹ wọ́n máa trend. Compared to ọmọ kan ṣubú bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n ní wàá gbé lọ́sọ̀ hospital to treat ẹ̀. Ta ló tẹ̀ máa mọ̀? Nobody will be interested in that. But bóyá bí ọmọ yẹn tó ṣubú ẹ̀ pé wọ́n lọ rape ẹni. Ẹ jọ. In fact, àwọn tó wà ní ìkèlè wọ́n máa pè é pé kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ àmà pọ̀npọ̀ báyìí àbí ìkọ̀bá àríwá pọ̀npọ̀ báyìí. So that is exactly the way it is. There's nothing like you now be calling gift kinikan. It is very, very wrong. In fact, it is not even practicable. What you earn, disclose it. That is what the tax law is saying. That is where people are actually hiding. They know, because a lot of us in Nigeria, we are very, very deceitful. Let me clear up it up. When I say deceitful, I'm about, you don't go to center issue. You go get called Mule. Ọlọ́run ló ń ṣe, my brother, Ọlọ́run ló ń ṣe. Only source of income, don't disclose it. Stop deceiving yourself. It is either you have a legal source of income or you have an illegal source of income. Either of it. Òun ló jẹ́ because ṣe dàbí ó ní kọ̀ọ̀kan máa pè black tax. A máa pè kí ni kan black tax. Black tax ẹni pé ìrànpẹ́ ìdáhùn àpẹẹtì mo ti ní ẹ̀wù àjọ ọdún fún mi o. Ẹ fi ní 5k. Mo gbà ń bí ọ̀rọ̀ wọlé fún àpẹẹtì mo rẹ́yìn. Mo gba 10k. Ẹjọ́ pàtí máa kó gbogbo kí ni yẹn jọ? Kí ni yẹn? Ó ti di owó ó ti tó sálárì èèyàn kan. Black tax ló máa ń pè. So at this point, I don't want us to drag, even though it's still a lot, but I have a question. I think we should bring them up now. Gross income. Gbogbo ńgbà tó fẹ́ wọlé, oye tí wọ́n sọ pé àwọn máa sọ fún salary is 10 million naira per annum ní ọdún. Now, let's say this is your company is Mempre Limited. You still get there, no? I guess please. Mempre Limited. Okay, now let's say according to Mempre is saying your basic is 20% of your gross. So this should be like 2 million. Abi? Now they said your housing is 25. This is 2.5. Quite alright. Your basic housing transport. Your transport is 25. That's also 2.5. This is about 7 million. Let's now say now have meal, wardrobe, and medical. This is 15, 20. So let's say 10, 10, 10. So now this is 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. So this is total of how much? 10 million naira. Now, if your pension, that's actually I'm talking of BHT. So the Pension Act states that both employee and employer are to contribute to the contribution pension scheme. So now, what that means is that employee is 8%, while your employer is 10%. So now, let us look at basic housing transport. Alone again, 7 million, I mean, 7 million multiplied by 8% is what? Figure me. That's my class. Figure, please. 560,000. Okay. Good. So this is your pension. So when you divided by 12, I'm a full every month. I'm remit as pension. Then your company will now be paying 10% of that same amount. Now, then in the old law, before I come to the new law, we have what we call CRA, which is Consolidated Relief Allowance, which says 20% of your gross income, that's 10 million. Okay, that's a 10 million plus 200,000. So that's 2.2 million now. Abi? So now, let's even say you're not doing NHF, or you have life insurance, or you have insurance premium that you are paying. Now, sábàyọ méjèèjì yìí nínú kíní kí ló máa kù? It should be like 27560. I mean, yeah, 2760. Kí ni figure? Kí ni balance méjèèjì? Sábàyọ méjèèjì yìí nínú 10 million. 2760 into 10 million. That should be like 6.250. I mean, 6 to 40 rather. Yeah.
7,240.
So now in tax, this is what we call taxable income. Now we need to understand what is taxable income, different from your gross income. They are different. You are earning 10 million does not mean you go and tax 10 million. No. You are entitled to different reliefs. So when they do this relief, then you can now be taxed. In the old law, it says the first 300,000 at 7%, next 300 at 11%, next 500 at 15%. So next 500 at 19%. So now, let us do a bit of math. This times this one should be 33,000. This should be like 21,000. But you can't confirm.
30 what?
31.
71.
How much is this one? 50,000 at 15%. 75,000. Now, we need to be mindful of something. About 300 plus 300 is how much? 600. 600 plus 500, that's 1.1 million. Only less than Oyetonfe tax. So because we have something that is called tax band, where everybody ultimately fall within the tax law. So now, then only where you might gravitate, see the next bracket. So the next bracket, let's now say 500,000 and 19% is what?
95,000.
95,000. Then the next one we have. So the one the way they call is what? 1.6. So the next one is what? 1.6 million. As I think 21%. Kí ni figure tó fún wa?
336.
336. Ṣé sábà had gbogbo ilé pọ̀? That's how much? That's 3.2 million. 3.2, right?
Yes.
So which means it's still less than
7.24.
7.24. So we move to the next one. That's actually how it works. So now, one of the good news of the new tax law is that if you earn less than 20 million per annum, your tax is coming down. That's a fact. It is not an emotional statement. It's a fact. And you'll try with the new tax law. If you earn anything less than that, your tax will come down. So now, this, we can now move to the next 3.2 at 24. So now, in order not to give us this plenty work, what we are saying is that there's nothing like that BSc, basic or that. What the new tax law is saying is that your pension still remains what it is, basic housing and transport, 8%. Because the Pension Act is different from any tax. It's a contributory scheme, not a tax form. Because to retire, even to out of job for like 3 months, you can get a percentage of it. So now, in the new tax law, what it's saying is that this CRA has now been cancelled. It's no longer CRA. The only relief you are now entitled to will now be called rent relief. It says what you have is rent relief, which will be 20% of the annual rent you pay. It is not because you earn 500,000, no. 20% of your rent that you pay in the house you stay. So So let's say in my house, I pay 2 million naira. 20% is how much? 400,000. Abi? So now, what the tax law is now saying is that, however, because we know some people stay in an apartment, they pay 40 million per annum. They cannot claim 20%. So the maximum you can claim is 500,000. That's the maximum. So even if you pay 100 million as rent, the maximum you can claim as relief is what? 500,000. You can't go above that. So now, another thing that has now happened is that the tax band has now been readjusted to now make sure that low-income earners do not pay a lot of taxes. So the first 800,000 in the new one is what? It's free. Zero. It is the next 2.2 million that is now being taxed. So even if your taxable income is 2.5 million, so it means that your tax will even come down automatically. Because if you take out 800,000 from 2.2, what will be left? 1.4. So 1.4 at 15%, it will come down. It will come down automatically. So now let me also talk about for informal taxes. So because a lot of our mothers and our fathers, they do a lot of informal business. Àwọn maybe wọ́n ta ọjà wórógbó, wọ́n ta nǹkan kékèké, èmi organizer, something like that. A new law is coming that even in this new tax law, they gave that power to the Minister of Finance with the Joint Revenue Board that states that presumptive tax. It means that people that you cannot adequately estimate how much they can make. Ṣé tàbí ẹni tó ń ta àgbàdo lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ títì, ó máa ta látàárọ̀ di alẹ́. Ọjà téèyàn bá ń ṣe láti àárọ̀ di alẹ́ is not the kind of business that can make you rich. That's just the rule, basic rule of life. Nǹkan téèyàn ṣe lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ ó máa ṣe láti àárọ̀ alẹ́ ò nílé lọ́lé wàá tí mo pé kàṣà lè pa ọ́ta fi máa jẹun lẹ́nu is not the kind of money that can make you rich. So those kind of people, what they will be likely to do, a lot of them will be exempted from paying tax. Wọ́n dẹ̀ máa fún wọn ní sticker tó máa lè lẹ̀ mọ́ ara nǹkan tí wọ́n ta. In fact, wọ́n tẹ̀ máa list àwọn nǹkan yẹn for organizer, roadside sellers and food sellers and kọ̀kọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn. All of those things, they will have a sticker. And then even informal tax yẹn, ó dẹ̀ máa wà in the sense that presumptive tax, that if you earn less than 12 million income as a petty trader, you'll be exempted. You know why? If somebody is earning 12 million, using this 50,000 case study, kò lè ta ọjà 12 million, kó má rà tó 11 million. So profits to my make, kí ló máa wà? Bóyá bí 1 million. They will be exempted when it comes to that informal sector. So those are actually the things. So but unfortunately, the rich are actually recruiting the poor to fight on their behalf. So, ìkọ́ wà nù law tí mo yẹ ṣàlàyé fún pastor last week pé the tax law requires that every bank must send every month the list of new customers and old customers that have done more than 25 million as individuals in a month and 100 million as a company. Ẹjọ́ mélòó ni wọn ló turn over 25 million in a month? Ẹ jẹ́ ká sọ reality mélòó nù wá ni tẹ́bi pé tax person á fi máa lé ìwọ yẹn káàkiri nígbà táwọn 100 million wà ń bẹ̀ ìwọ tó yẹ pé ó ti ẹni tó 10 million lákàntì ẹ̀ ní last 3 years ìwọ ló ń kígbe pé wọ́n máa debit account wa wọ́n máa tax account wa. There's nothing like that. So it is people that have that liquid cash and tó turn over 25 million wọ́n máa sọ more tax. So the best thing ni pé wọ́n máa tax bank account ní ẹ̀rọ pé Nàìjíríà we are one one-way traffic ni wa. Because a lot of us, something will come out, 99% will not read, 1% will read it, and then interpret it in their own parochial way. Àwọn tó kù yẹn wọ̀ tẹ̀mọ̀ kó tó jẹ́ o, wọ́n á kọ̀ máa wúlò bẹ́ẹ̀ ni. Bí ni wọ́n ti lọ máa tax bank account wa. Wọ́n mi pè mí pé wọ́n ní ta ló sọ bẹ́ẹ̀. Wọ́n ní ẹjọ́ sọ fún yẹn, mo ní pé kó pè mí pé mo sọ pé kó pè mí. Wọ́n ní ẹni gbọ́dọ̀ sọ fún òun yẹn, mo ní ẹ̀kọ́ sọ fún yẹn kó sọ tó wà nínú tax law fún òun bẹ́ẹ̀. Kò sí lẹ́yìn yẹn. I was in Nigerian FM ní December 30. I was talking on radio. A lot of people were calling me and I was just like, the person will tell you that thing. Tell her, make it show you where he dey for the law. But none of them can actually say this is where it is. A lot of people don't want to pay tax. They just want to make free money. Thank you.